groovy intro to this. I love it, guys. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Jesse. I'm here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I know we've got a lot of familiar kids in the crowd, but if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world through over 40 monthly live free interactive broadcasts, all of which end up on our YouTube channel. You can check them out forever. I think there's 3,000 of them now there, so any topic you're interested in, you can probably find right there. We are fast approaching March break. I'm going on vacation. Joe just came back from vacation. It's a crazy time. We got a big gap of programs, but we wanted to cap off with some really exciting stuff in this final big week. Earlier today, I was hanging out with Abby Freeman. She is the deputy project scientist at NASA for their Curiosity rover, so we got to explore Mars together, which is super cool. But for today's program with all our awesome live classroom friends, we are joining live in Costa Rica at the Toucan Rescue Ranch, and they are my favorite organization to partner with. We have done, I think, 60, 70 programs with them over the last 5-6 years, highlighting the amazing work that they do to rescue, rehabilitate, re-release injured animals, to showcase the wide world of the biodiversity in one of the most biodiverse and special places on this planet, and so much more. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Steph, their education coordinator, to walk us around their amazing facility and to get to hang out with some sloths, because that's what this is all about. So, without further ado, Steph, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome in. Unmute your mic. Take us away. I'm so excited to dive in.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited also to have everyone here at the Toucan Rescue Ranch. So as Jesse was saying, my name is Stephanie. I am a tropical biologist, and I am here to explain a little bit about one of the animals that we specialize working with, which are sloths. I have Stevie right behind me. And when we have that space, I'm eager to also have all your questions, guys. So just to give you a little bit of background, Toucan Rescue Ranch is a center that is devoted to rescue, rehabilitating, and rewilding as many animals as we possibly can. And even though we did start working with toucans, now one of the animals that we have specialized working with are sloths. We have a whole program to try to return to the wild as many sloths as we possibly can. Sloths may come to Toucan Rescue Ranch for different reasons. Some of these sloths come because they were electrocuted, some are orphans, some were attacked by dogs, or were maybe unfortunately hit by a car. So right now I'm going to go ahead and change my camera so you guys can take a look at our friend Stevie right here. So Stevie is Hoffman's two-finger sloth. Now, guys, very important while we talk about sloths to understand that there are two main kinds of sloths. So you might think that the two kinds of sloths are closely related. Well, they're not, guys. Sloths come from this fascinating group called Sonarthra that is more closely related to armadillos, to silky anteaters, and to anteaters in general, tamanduas. However, the two kinds of sloths that we have in the world, which only exist in the American continent, this group started evolving from South America, and these animals irradiated towards the north. Only has 6 species and 2 families. Since they're in 2 separate families, this means that these animals evolved separately thousands of years ago. And in the case of my friend Stevie over here, a Hoffman's two-finger sloth, she is from the Coleopodidae family. So here is a main trait that sets these animals apart. So these guys have 2 claws in their front extremities. Now, something important to note is that in the back, sloths actually have 3 fingers. So you'll see that in Stevie's front back feet, you'll find 3 little claws. Sometimes you'll hear the name 2-toed and 3-toed sloths. And let me tell you guys that I am not a fan of that name because, in fact, all sloths actually have 3 toes. What is different is the amount of claws or fingers that they have in their front extremities. Now, the other main family of sloths is the Rhytopodidae family, which is a family of the 3-finger sloths. The 3-finger sloths are the ones that have the black mask. They may have this grayish tone. They're a little bit smaller. And the thing that they have in common, besides the fact that they are both from the superorder Folivora, is that these animals are both folivores. So a folivore is an animal that mainly eats leaves. So in both the case of the two-finger and the three-finger sloth, more than 90% of the diet is pretty much leaves. Now, as you saw, Stevie here was having this yummy, yummy flower, and that's something that sets two-finger and three-finger sloths apart. Three-finger sloths basically only eat leaves. More than 90, it's more like 99% of their diet is leaves and just certain kinds of leaves. Whereas two-finger sloths have a bit of a quicker metabolism. Three-finger sloths have the slowest metabolism of any mammal in the world. Two-finger sloths can diversify their diet by eating flowers, by from time to time having a fruit. They can also even diversify their diet by eating animals that they may find dead, for example, a dead lizard. If on occasion they might find an abandoned nest with an egg, these animals can even digest protein. Now, that means that these kinds of sloths have a little bit more energy than the three-finger sloths. However, the cool thing about sloths is that they actually have this reputation that they're very lazy. I know the name sloth doesn't help, and the fact that most of our sloths are actually napping is not helping me make my point. But it turns out that sloths are not really lazy. They're actually just excellent at economizing energy. So they have a great survival strategy because the food that they consume is all around them. They are arboreal, they live in the trees, and they have their food all around them. They don't have to be chasing after it. Now, the thing is, guys, if you ever had a dinner of just salad, I don't know if that's happened to you ever, but when I just have salad for dinner, I get hungry pretty quickly. Just eating leaves is a kind of food that doesn't bring that much energy. So the sloths have actually a solution to this little problem of just eating leaves. And that solution is that sloths don't move if they don't need to move. And they save up on energy in many ways. So, for example, you'll see that my friend Stevie here just got into the bucket and she became a little ball now. They actually got fed recently, so they're probably having, a little an energy rush from eating, and now it's nap time for them. So it turns out that one of the things that sloths do besides avoid movement if they don't need to move is that they don't even spend energy in things that other warm-blooded animals use energy in, like thermoregulation. So thermoregulation is the ability of controlling your own body temperature. And warm-blooded mammals usually have the advantage of having a stable temperature. But guess what? Sloths don't use energy doing that. So here you'll see this sloth, or maybe you won't see it. The reason is that he's completely covered in his blanket, guys. And it turns out that the reason that my friend Milo here covers himself up completely in the blankets is that he cannot thermoregulate very well. So he tucks himself in. With babies, we even put a little heating pad in their buckets to make sure that they're nice and warm. So what happens in the wild? In the wild, what sloths do is that they go very high up in the treetops and they sunbath every day. And here we're in the mountains of San Isidro de Heredia, where it can get a little bit chilly. So one of the things that we have done to help sloths thermoregulate is, first, part of all the enclosures do not have a roof so that they can get some sun when they feel like it. But the other thing that we do is that we put those blankets so that if it's not warm enough for them, they can get warm by using these little blankets. Now, that strategy of taking the sun to control the body temperature is great, but one of the problems is that one of the sloth's main predator, which is the harpy eagle, actually can eat sloths when they are sunbathing in the canopy of the trees, and the canopy is very, very top of the trees. Another thing I like for people to understand is that sloths might seem quite, how can I say this? Quite harmless, but sloths can actually be quite dangerous. here, guys, I have a skull of a two-finger sloth. And even though most of the teeth are for grinding leaves, they're pretty flat, it turns out that two-finger sloths even have this caniform shaped teeth that never stop growing, and they actually are able to defend themselves with these teeth and with those huge claws that you already have. So if an animal like a harpy eagle tries to attack a sloth, first they will defend themselves with those huge claws you already saw, and if they're able to grab whatever's trying to attack them, if they're able to take a bite, well, these teeth never stop growing, and they actually sharpen each other, and that's how they don't hurt their gums. So believe me, these are some very, very sharp teeth, which, interesting side note, have no enamel, so become pretty black. And sloths are crazy, crazy strong, guys. Sometimes we need to be up to 4 people in the clinic holding one sloth because of how much retractile strength they have. In order to be able to hang from the branches for so long, sloths need to have great, great strength. I also wanted to show you the difference between a 2-finger and 3-finger sloth. As I told you, 3-finger sloths only have a diet of leaves, so all of their teeth are pretty much just for grinding the leaves. So they're all pretty flat. Now, I'd love for you to go with me to see the different stages of the program that we have to be able to rehabilitate and rewild sloths. Now, that area where I was before is the area where we keep our permanent residents. Sloths that for different reasons were not able to return back into the wild. These sloths either came before our program began. Saving Sloths Together was a program that began in 2017. So in cases like Georgie and Milo, they didn't have the opportunity to be able to be part of the program. Some sloths that we have there may have gone through the program, but maybe failed college. But I will explain what each stage is. So guys, here we have our sloth elementary. So probably number one reason why we get sloths is because they are abandoned by their mothers for different reasons. And over here we have one active little friend. His name is Landon. So Landon is another 2-finger sloth. And he's a very special case that can help me explain why it is that we get many of those sloths. So some of these sloths may be sick in ways that we don't really understand when they're here. Some may have a heart condition, a lung condition, and that was the reason why they were abandoned. And those things might be evident only after they've been here for a few months. Despite all efforts, some babies might not survive. But some babies like Landon, it's pretty clear why they're here. Landon is a very, very special case. He has been getting laser therapy for months now, because when Landon came here, guys, what you see that he's doing, climbing that way, he couldn't do it. Landon didn't have the ability to climb because he actually still has this problem. I will change the angle that I'm in so you guys can see it a little bit better. Landon has a hard time knowing where his back feet are. So with therapy, he has gained mobility in his back feet, but sometimes as he's climbing, he has a very hard time on making sure that his back feet are able to grip the branches appropriately. Now, we still hope that with more therapy, Landon will be able to be part of the program. But in some cases, when an animal has different health conditions that wouldn't allow for him to survive in the wild, they may have to become permanent residents. Now, when a sloth comes here, depending on how big he is, if it's a young baby, they're going to need around-the-clock care. And we always have someone here at night to be able to do night feeds. It's like with a human baby, you need to be feeding, depending on the age, maybe every 4 hours. And what we do is that we feed them goat's milk with Pedialyte. That's a magical formula, because we, of course, don't have any sloth milk over here. And what we do is that we feed them with a syringe very slowly, to make sure that there's no bronchoaspiration. And as you see, we start using these buckets. And as I mentioned, very often we'll use a heating pad. Sorry, Landon, I was going to try to grab you. A heating pad at the very bottom of these buckets so that the sloths will stay nice and warm. They will stay in this preschool area gaining weight. And we also already feed them leaves because it's very important for them to start eating what they usually would have eaten in the wild. And of course, we have these structures so that sloths can start practicing their climbing skills. And here we have a couple of sloths that are part of preschool. And we actually have a little surprise for you guys because I would like to show you one of the things that the caregivers need to do with baby sloths. It turns out, guys, that sloths actually learn how to pee and poo from their parents. And check out how, ¿cuál es este? Gio. This is Gio. Check out just how bloated Gio is. He has this little huge belly. He's all bloated up. And we are going to see if Gio and Coco feel like going to the bathroom. Now, let me tell you something very cool, guys. Sloths do everything in the trees. They're born in the trees. They breed in the trees. They eat, sleep, everything. They don't need to go down for anything except one thing. And that thing is going to the bathroom. And this is something quite peculiar. We don't really truly understand why it is that sloths actually need to go to the bathroom on the ground because I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in the bathroom, that's a pretty private and that is a very, let's say, intimate moment, and I wouldn't want to be fearing for a predator to go after me while I'm going to the bathroom. So this is something that has baffled researchers for a long time. Why is it that sloths go down to the ground to pee and poo? And there might be many reasons. First off, let me explain that sloths don't go to the bathroom every day. I was mentioning that they have a slow metabolism, and part of having a slow metabolism includes that they are going to take up to a month to digest a leaf that they eat today. So maybe they'll go once a week, maybe they'll go once every 2 weeks to the bathroom because it takes such a long time for them to digest their meals. So when they get all bloated like this, an adult sloth can release up to 30% of their body weight in one go. Here you can see all the digested matter that is in Gio's belly, and he is pretty much ready to go. But here's the thing. Usually they would go with their mothers, and that is why we're here trying to get them to go, because their mothers will go once a week or once every 2 weeks to the bottom of the tree. And one thing that they will do is that they're going to hug a branch. And they hug branches the way that Coco is actually grabbing Giselle's leg. They hold onto the base of the tree, and then they get this little phase of pleasure going on, and they go this way. When their mothers go, they smell the pee and the poo. And when they smell the pee and the poo, that makes them want to go. So this is something that we need to do with our sloths pretty much every day, because at this stage, we don't really know exactly when it is that they're going to go. And dynamics here are a little bit different. Plus, it's not the same getting mom's milk than goat's milk. So caretakers are always trying to see exactly when it is that sloths are ready to go. And depending on when they're bloated, then they're going to be trying with the different babies almost on a daily basis. Now, I can see that Gio seems to be ready to go, and he's using Giselle's leg as if it was the base of a tree. So that should be interesting. Now, I was trying to explain why it is that sloths do this. So there are people that think that maybe sloths go to the base of the tree to pee and poo because it might be a way for them to remain hidden. So one of the keys to sloth success is not moving, remaining hidden, camouflage. Sloths have microalgae in their fur that can give them a green color, so they can actually become green. So maybe by going to the base of the tree, they're actually hiding the exact location where they actually are. Um, Otherwise, there would be a trace of pee and poo to the exact location where the sloth is. So who knows? It could be a way for them to camouflage their exact location or hide their exact location. So that is one theory. Some people say that maybe they're returning nutrients to the tree. We do know that that is not true. Sloths don't just live in one tree, so it would be odd that they would be returning nutrients to one single tree if they're actually constantly moving around. So many people have ruled that out. And I have a personal belief, and that personal belief is that maybe this is simply a very ancient trait that sloths have, because sloths come from a very, very ancient line of megafauna, so huge mammals that used to live with mammoths, for example. And an explanation that I really like is that because sloths come from these ancient line of mammals, some were the size of a small elephant like Megatherium, and these animals actually used to go to the ground to pee and poo because they didn't live in the tree, they were land dwellers. Then this could simply be a characteristic that got passed on by very, very ancient sloths. Now, I see also that my friend Gio here seems to be eating a little bit of grass, a little bit of dirt. That is something that sloths also do on occasion. And Coco seems to be a little more ready to go, but he hasn't done so. If you're curious as to what sloth poop looks like, well, you might, but maybe you weren't expecting to see poop in a show, but right here we have some baby poop. Let's see, I don't know how well you can actually see this, but right here we have some little poop balls, and it's pretty much like rabbit. You can see that one on the leaf. They're like little black balls, very similar to maybe rabbit poop, for example, because like rabbits, they mainly eat vegetation, leaves, etc. Jesse, whenever you are ready for questions, let me know. If not, we will move on to a different topic.
Sure. Well, we'll head to another topic for a minute, and then we've got a bunch of classes with us live. So a few more minutes, and then we'll take our first question from Miss Tran's class when you guys you're done your next showcase. Go for it.
Okay, perfect. So, guys, another thing that I also wanted to share with you regarding sloths is the different stages of what we do. So after this preschool stage, what we're going to do is move them to our school enclosures. Over there we have Weenie, and I believe Pringle might be over there, but I checked on them, they're fast asleep. So that is an enclosure where they have this sort of structure, and they have ropes, they have hammocks. And one of the things we're going to try to do is try to detach ourselves from the sloths. These are sloths that are from 3 to 6 months. And part of the goal when you rewild an animal is try to make sure that these animals remain as wild as possible. So that is part of the point of the school phase. At the end of school, we're also going to start weaning off milk, because once they go to the high school stage of the program, this is where they come. This is the high school enclosure. Currently, the only sloth we have transitioning into high school is Weenie, but Weenie right now is indoors. What is the goal of high school? They're going to have this opportunity of being on trees so that they start very slowly getting used to natural conditions. Once sloths are about a year old, then we're going to decide if they're ready to move to high school and to college. And sloth college pretty much means that they're going to go to a release site in Sarapiquí. They are going to go to these huge pre-release enclosures, and in the pre-release enclosures, they're going to be completely isolated from humans. They are going to get used to the conditions there. And when they're ready to graduate, usually it's around a year and a half, depending on the progress of the sloth. They're going to get radio collars, and we're going to track them for approximately 6 months. If the sloth acts the way a sloth should act, then they are going to be graduated back into the wild. Alrighty, Jesse, I don't know if you want to go with the questions. If not, I can also talk about something else, of course.
No, that's fantastic. And if there's anything else that jumps out in the questions, you can tell us as we go along. But this is a great place to leave it with a very athletic sloth. We're going to head to our Vancouver crew, Miss Trans class. If you guys want to unmute your mics and come on in for our first question, I'll be going to each class individually. Any of our YouTube classes, you guys can get ready as well. But let's head to Miss Trans class and take us away. Hey, guys. Welcome in.
Hello.
Hi. Do you have any sloth questions for Stephanie?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, raising your hand. Let's see. Alvin, go ahead.
What is the first thing that sloths eat? Like usually eat the first thing?
What's the first thing sloths usually eat in the morning?
In the morning, what's their breakfast?
So if we're talking about baby sloths, they're going to get the milk. So part of what I was trying to explain is that we, for breakfast, use these little syringes with this little part that's called the magical nipple. That helps us deliver the sloth's breakfast. So it would be goat's milk with Pedialyte. That is like our magical formula. If we're talking about an adult sloth, the breakfast would pretty much be leaves. If it is a sloth that is going to be rewilded, we also have permanent residents that eat cooked green beans and carrots. So it depends on what sloth we're talking about for breakfast.
How nice. Let's head to Del Sol Academy, the greatest named school of all our classes today in California, Miss Vieira's class. You guys want to come on and ask a question? You're good to go. Hi.
Leah, what's your question? Loud, what's your question, Leah?
My question is, how old do sloths get up to be?
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that question. So let me tell you something. In the wild, we're actually not sure because no one has ever followed a sloth from birth to death. But what we do know is how long sloths live in captivity. So here's the thing. 2-finger and 3-finger sloths are completely different. 3-finger sloths actually cannot survive in captivity very long. So with them, it's more of a mystery. But if we're talking about 2-finger sloths, usually 2-finger sloths live around 30 to 35 years in captivity. But let me tell you something. Right now, we have the World Guinness record of the longest living sloth. His name is Jan. It's not the same species as the one we have in Costa Rica. He is a Coleopus didactylus. And that sloth has a record of 52 years old, and Jan is still breeding babies, so he's in really good shape.
Wow, very cool. I love when we get this question. We've been getting it a lot lately in these programs, which is great. We're going to head to South Porcupine, Ontario for Miss McDonald's class. If you guys have one for us, come on in and welcome to the program, guys. Hi.
How long do sloths sleep?
How long do they sleep, Jeff? Yeah.
Great question, because some people before used to believe that sloths slept all of the time. There used to be this belief that sloths could sleep up to 20 hours in a 24-hour period. We now know that is not true. Sloths actually sleep from 10 to 15 hours in a 24-hour period. And in the case of 2-finger sloths, they are more nocturnal than diurnal. So they're going to spend a lot more time sleeping during the day than the 3-finger sloths. We actually have a couple of 3-finger sloths over here that are napping. 3-finger sloths are a lot more active during the day, but these guys just ate, so they're not that active right now.
Very, very cool. Well, great questions, guys. We're whipping through these. We're going to head to Cherokee, Texas, Miss Paget's class. If you guys want to come on in and take us away, you're good to go. Hi.
I heard that sloths are very fast when they need to be. Is that true?
Yes, good question.
That is absolutely true. Another myth about sloths is that they're very, very slow. And if you saw how quickly Landon was moving, if you compare it to that movie Zootopia, if anyone's seen Zootopia, you'll notice that sloths actually can move pretty fast. And consider this, sloths can actually swim. So in order to swim, they need to be able to move their arms pretty quickly. And also, if I could give an estimate that would help you, a sloth can move in the branches as quickly as a kid runs on the ground. So it's not true that their movements are slowly. And when a sloth feels threatened, he will throw his claws at you very, very quickly. So yes, the answer is sloths are a lot quicker than you know.
So usually we get this question phrased as like sloths are so slow, right? So I'm so glad you like knew that to go into it. Way to go, guys. Miss Becker's class, we're gonna head to San Diego. Come on in, unmute your mic, and you're good to go. Hi, guys. Hi. Oh,
You can ask the question.
How many babies can a mom sloth find?
yeah.
Great question. So sloths usually can only have one baby, and that is what they are pretty much prepared to be able to raise. However, let me tell you that in some rare occasions, sloths have been known to have two babies. Now, because they are only capable of raising one of the babies, the weaker baby would get abandoned if that was the case. But that it is extremely rare for sloths to have two babies.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that sounds kind of alarming because it's so different than what people would do, but a lot of animals actually have that as a structure. So you'll have one baby, and if there's more, it's sort of like an insurance policy if there happens to be a really good year, but not something that it's particularly nice to hear about. But great question, guys. Miss Haagen-Dazs' class, we're going to head to New Jersey. If you guys want to unmute, come on in, and then we're going to do a whole other round of questions. So put those thinking caps on for our next round in a second. But come on in, Miss Haagen-Dazs. Hi.
How many sloths and toucans do you rescue each year?
How many sloths and toucans do you rescue each year, Steph?
Woo, that is a pretty hard question to know, but to give you some numbers that we do know. So since 2017, when the program Saving Sloths Together began, we have rewilded roughly around 200 sloths, probably a little bit more than that. So those are actually pretty good numbers. Now, the amount of sloths that actually come here is pretty hard to tell. But to give you an idea, usually we have at least one sloth a week that comes in electrocuted, or an orphan that came in. So crack the numbers. That is a lot of sloths in a year. Toucans can be more variable. Right now, for example, we have 3 newborn babies that just hatched out of the egg, but sometimes we might have a month where we have no toucans. So toucans can be pretty variable.
Okay. And for people keen more on toucans as well, March 29th, 1 Eastern. If you don't get one of the camera spots, they're all recorded. They all go to our YouTube channels. If you want to dive in on the toucan story, you can check out that broadcast as well. We're going to head to Miss Tran's class again, do another round of these classes and dive in. So thanks for the call. Come on in. Hey, guys, unmute. Come chat with me. Hi.
Okay. Anybody have a question?
Me again.
Oh, no, someone new. Ethan.
Hey, Ethan.
I forgot my.
Okay, that's fine. Anybody else?
Oh, if it's just him, we'll take it.
Willem? Hey, Willem,
Where are sloths most common?
where are sloths most common?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so at least in Costa Rica, let me tell you that sloths are more common in the coastal areas. And from the different ecosystems we have in Costa Rica, they are more common in the rainforests than in dry forests. So in the northern Pacific of Costa Rica, where we have dry forests, it's very, very hard to find sloths. But if you go, for example, to the Caribbean lowlands, areas like Cahuita and Puerto Viejo, man, sloths are really everywhere. So Caribbean lowlands here in Central America are one of the most the most common places to find sloths, but also the Pacific lowlands where there's rainforest.
It's really delightful as a Canadian to think that there's anywhere where sloths are just overabundant and you can't help but see them. They seem like such a unique and amazing creature, and I love that you're being chased down by one right now.
Yeah, I am.
You answered specifically a question from our calorie class on YouTube with that answer, so thank you for that as well. But we're going to head back to California. Ms. Vieira's class, you want to unmute? You are good to go. Hi, guys.
All right, Tyron, what's your question?
How many pounds of food does a sloth eat in a day?
Yeah, how many pounds of food a day?
Ooh, that is actually a good question. I'm actually not sure on the total amount. I want to say at least a pound of leaves during the day. But if I could actually get back to you with that, I'll check on the vet team and I can give you a sure answer because I'm not 100% sure if it's actually a pound of leaves, but I'm pretty sure it's about that.
Okay, and that's pretty good. That's a great estimate if you don't get a specific one, but I like that question, guys. Later in the episode, Porcupine, Miss McDonald, come on back in. Geez, we got like 8 minutes left. 4 more questions to come. Thank you all so much for these great queries so far. But Porcupine, hey, come on in.
How do they stay in the tree while sleeping?
How do they get where when they're sleeping?
How do they stay in the tree while sleeping?
Oh, how do they stay in the tree while sleeping, Steph?
Oh, that's a great question. And very, very important for them to make sure that they don't fall off from the branches while they're sleeping. Well, let me explain something, guys. It turns out that sloths have these big claws to be able to get a good grip. But also another peculiarity about the sloth's claws and their hold hand mechanism is that in their joints, they're able to lock when they do this movement. So usually what a sloth is going to do when they go to sleep is that they're not going to be hanging completely from a branch. They're actually going to look for a branch that can give them support on their backs. So they usually what they do, and I actually have a sloth that can help me show what I'm talking about. When sloths go to sleep on the trees, they're going to do what this sloth is doing right here. So this is a good visual aid. They're going to find a branch that gives them back support, and then they're going to hang from a structure or from a branch that is on top or close to them. And this is precisely what this sloth is doing. He has some back support, and at the same time he is using part of the enclosure and he is locking his joints to be able to sleep while using the branch and making sure that even though he's fast asleep, he doesn't fall off the branch.
Thank you so much for walking us there, Steph. That also seemed like it was in fast motion. That was like the fastest anyone's ever run in a program ever, so thank you for that. We're going to head to Cherokee, Texas, which, by the way, I was looking up Cherokee, Texas between this question and last one. You guys are like one of the smallest towns you've ever had on. It's so nice to have like half the population of Cherokee in one broadcast.
This is 5th grade.
This is 5th grade. Well, it's so nice to have you guys. This is amazing. Do you have a question for us? Come on in.
Yeah. How heavy does the adult sloth get?
How heavy do they get, Steph?
Ooh, great question. And I'm glad I'm here because here we have one of the biggest sloths that has ever come to Toucan Rescue Ranch. His name is Atlas. He is enormous. But before I talk about how big they get, I want to explain usually how heavy they usually are. So in the case of 2-finger sloths, a very average weight can be around 8 pounds. And in the case of 3-finger sloths, it's usually less than that. Around 6 pounds is a good normal average weight for a 3-finger sloth. Now, here's the thing. Atlas is a sloth that has helped us defy just how big a sloth can get because he was actually living in a hotel. Well, how can I phrase this? He wasn't living in a hotel. He was living in the trees around the restaurant of a hotel where he was getting fed some very inappropriate food. So he is heavier than your average sloth. And in the case of Atlas, I believe he is around 16 pounds. So that is not usual, but clearly thanks to Atlas, we know that it's possible.
I think some of us know with pets, you give your dog all kibbles and bits all the time, you'll end up with a bit of a chunkier dog. So I like that question very much. Thanks, Miss Paget's class. So nice to have you guys in Cherokee. Miss Becker heading to San Diego, one of my favorite cities in the world. If you want to unmute, come on in, and then we'll wrap up with Miss Hawkinjoss in just a second. Come on in, Miss Becker. Hi.
How long does it take for the sloths to get used to humans?
Yes. Did you catch that, Steph?
Yes, and that is a really good question. Now, here's the thing. Sloths are solitary, guys. So it is a lot more difficult for a sloth to get habituated or imprinted by humans. So if you have the proper precautions and you're not constantly holding the sloth, which is maybe a mistake that we did with the first generations. We maybe did a little too much carrying after 6 months. We have like a 6-month mark where the sloths need to be in school, and we avoid any contact whatsoever. So, I mean, it really depends. If, for example, in 3 to 6 months you've been constantly holding the sloth, that time is enough for the sloth to be too habituated to humans. But if in that process you avoid too much contact, and that is part of the reason why we use the buckets, to avoid holding, to avoid exposing ourselves too much to the sloths, then there's actually not a risk of the sloth getting imprinted. If you take precautions, then after the 6 months, the sloth will be able to continue being wild and aggressive, and he can be rewilded.
I'm really, really happy we mentioned this, but sloths are one of those creatures that a lot of people are like, oh, a sloth, great, it would be great to pet it, hold it, have it in your hand. And one thing that you guys do at the Toucan Rescue Ranch so well is highlight that that is not the way that people should ever be interacting with wild animals like these. In fact, one of the things that all our classes can do that you guys have highlighted a lot over the last few years is if you see pictures of someone riding an animal or holding an animal that they shouldn't, or they're somewhere, don't share those pictures on Instagram, don't share them on Facebook. It encourages that sort of behavior. We want to end up in a position where the animals can be rewilded if possible, or at least where they're at the highest standard of animal care. A lot of animals that are in those situations are often not in the best situation. They're fed the wrong things, they're treated poorly, and so that's a thing that all our students can really do. Like and share pictures of animals that are in places like a Toucan Rescue Ranch, a major accredited zoo like in some of our major cities like the San Diego Zoo. That really does go a long way to protecting wildlife. So I'm really glad we got that question, Steph. Steph, time flies and you're having fun. We're going to go to one more question to New Jersey, and then we'll wrap up from there. Ms. Hawkinjoss's class, come on in and take us away. Hey.
Oh, what are sloth predators?
What eats sloths? Yes.
Great question. So, number one predator of the sloth is a harpy eagle. And the harpy eagle is the biggest, the most magnificent, and most powerful eagle that we have in the American continent. And the main diet of harpy eagles are sloths, howler monkeys, spider monkeys. So those guys are going to be the ones doing the most eating of sloths. Why is it that sloths don't have very many other common predators? Because sloths live so high up in the canopy of the trees that animals like jaguars and pumas do not have access to this level of the forest. However, if a sloth goes down, and if it is small enough and maybe not as ferocious as it should be, an animal like a jaguar, a puma, an ocelot can try to prey on a sloth.
I encourage our classes to look up the harpy eagle. It's my favorite bird in the world. When I was a boy, I had a harpy eagle poster on my wall. That's how nerdy I was. They're just an incredible animal. So check them out when you're done the program as well. Steph, before we wrap up, I want to note again for all our students, check out toucanrescueranch.org, at Toucan Rescue on social media. So much more to learn and discover there. And of course, our program together in just a few weeks on March 29th, you can learn about toucans and the other incredible wildlife there. If you want to check out this session again, head to our YouTube channel. Before we wrap up, Steph, and before we bring in all our classes to say a big thank you as always, is there any last message you want to share with us about the Toucan Rescue Ranch today?
Yes, absolutely, guys. Well, this is just a tiny fraction of the work that we do. You will, if you meet us in the next Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, you'll see that we also work with raptors, with toucans, with parrots, macaws, and it turns out, guys, that all this work that we do can be very expensive. Just an electrocuted sloth, we have estimated can cost around $1,000. So part of the way that we do the work that we do is by doing virtual tours. If you ever come to Costa Rica, you can also, of course, do a tour at Toucan Rescue Ranch. So I invite you guys to check out the Toucan Rescue Ranch website to check out all the different ways in which we can help. We always accept donations. We also sometimes have classrooms that do little projects with us, and anyone that would like to do something like that is more than welcome. I'm the education coordinator, so I would be helping you out if you ever wanted to do that. But you know what, guys, just spreading the word. Check us out in maybe social media or in any way that you can. Spreading the word so that more people can know and try to help is fundamental. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, classes. Over our last 5 years together, I think classes have raised like $5,000-$6,000 for the Toucan Rescue Ranch together. So it's been an amazing partnership over the last 2 years. Do check out their website. There's so much on the go, and we really hope you'll join us again for another program soon. And if this is your first time joining us, this is particularly exciting. We wrap up every broadcast by bringing in all our classes. You guys want to join me in saying a big thank you and farewell. Miss Trans class, Miss Vieira, Miss McDonald, Miss Paget, Miss Becker, Miss Hawken-Josh, you're all in the broadcast. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye for now, guys.